take it off for the night. We rock guys every time we feel boom, boom, rap, yeah, we got it like that. Kick drum, hit your whole body go crack. Then the baseline move, take it off for the night.
Yes, my people, welcome to another Heat Check special. I'm, of course, your boy, Jaydee Dyer, and we have a lot to catch up on. After last week, we thought the trade deadline did enough, right? It created a few headlines, a few big additions. That feels like a distant memory now. Compared to the additions we've seen in the buyout market, these big teams are ready to finally assemble their rosters. We've got a lot to unpack, and I brought my own superhero roster here on the Heat Check to break it all down. So shout out to my guys each and every time. The analysts with the punchlines that are felt each and every time, especially with his new show in the paint. The Double M, Mooncey. Put some respect on my guy, the 3-time NBA champion on this show, BJ Armstrong. And look, of course, I can't forget the powerhouse. He's catching more bodies down in France than anybody you know. Yeah, watch out to my guy, the forward of LaMarcus, Ovie, Soko. Mo, clean your mind. Yeah, my guy. How was your week been?
Blessed. JD, the sun's finally out here in England. We're out in the park getting buckets, back to doing what we do. I'm loving it. I hope everyone who's watching this right now has spent the whole day outside in the sun getting buckets as well.
BJ, you're not going to give us an LA update? Is that how it is? Just because we get a little bit of sun, you don't want to tell us nothing? This is what I'm saying about Californians. They get bougie because, look, we're not used to getting sun, so we're trying to be, we're trying to give us a little bit of energy, yeah?
Giving my respect to the UK, getting sun, every day. It's 70 and sunny out here. We don't want to brag about it here in LA. 70 and sunny. As my man would say, you know the vibes. You know the vibes, right? Hey. So, but hey, I was like, you have your day in the sun, literally. It's your day.
Ovie, look, I need an update. How's it popping over there in France, man? We international on this show.
The weather's nice. It's sunny outside. The sun rays are shining bright. Able to go to work out in the gym. Same old. NBA's been popping off over the last week. Sorry, there's been a lot going on. So I've been good on my side, man. Good to catch up with you guys again, like always.
Well, look, let's start with the good news, the latest news. And it seems that we're finally getting a little bit of structure in terms of the NBA. And not just this season, looking forward to next season. After the months of uncertainty, we finally know the schedule after the pandemic in terms of the 2021 draft. And that's now been set for July 29th. So, BJ, look, I think it's really important for the next generation to have some sort of clarity, especially looking at the unique year that the stars that just came into the league had. But how excited should we be about, obviously, the up-and-coming draft in July?
Well, I think the draft this year has been very unique in the sense that there was no preparation. There was no summer league. Literally, there was 10 days or so for training camp. And there was just no time for these young men in this past draft to actually have the way to transition from being a collegiate or an amateur to a professional. So I think we should be very encouraged, or at least excited about the draft. We're seeing some really good players here. This young man, Evan Mobley, here, and so forth and so on. There's some really good players that's coming up in the draft. But most importantly, I'm excited because now you have an opportunity to see these young men get drafted, have an opportunity to play in the summer league, and then go to training camp and get ready. So I think it'll be a more traditional sense. And I think the players will benefit from this transition, which they didn't have just a year ago.
Mo, I know, like myself, look, you're a hooper, you love this game, so I know you would have been keeping your eye on March Madness. I just want to know, because you have that GM hat on sometimes, tell me, which sort of prospects are you looking forward to seeing inducted into the league next year?
Listen, if I'm a GM of an NBA team, I'm going all in on Cade Cunningham. That kid is a special talent. But let's not forget, it's not just the NCAA March Madness that we got to look at. We've got a few guys coming out of the G League from the Ignite team. We've got guys like Jalen Green that are coming out that are very special talents in and of their own right. So, there is a bunch of talent, and I feel like, we're looking at this draft class that just came into the league and how well they're performing. A lot of people called them a weak draft class because of how talented this one coming up this summer is about to be. So there are going to be a lot of gems at the top of the draft and also some pleasant surprises for some teams that are further down.
Ovie, you know, sort of within these players nowadays, their mindsets, they have to start thinking about the league, especially if they want to declare themselves, even though they're still in the midst of their tournaments or playing in Europe or the G League, as Mo just alluded to. How much of that is the sort of mental battle of saying to yourself, you know what, I actually might be playing in the league next year?
I think the closer these guys get to that day, to the big day, to draft night, I think, you know, the anxiety definitely builds up. Alongside the excitement, you know, these guys, they've been working towards this their whole careers. I think, you know, becoming a professional basketball player is something millions and millions and millions of kids dream about when they're young. And there's very few that are able to hold on to that dream up until draft night. So, you know, these are guys who have played this moment over in their head time and time again. They've got big hopes and they've got big goals to take on to the next level. So, you know, I think the mental side of it is something that's probably been playing on their mind for years and years. And I know they can't be more excited for the day to finally come. So.
Ovie, hold that thought, because moving on to the second bit of latest news that we have, obviously the NBA have now announced that the Basketball Africa League is set to open up its inaugural date. Look, we know this has been delayed for almost a year now, but the 14-day season will actually commence on the 16th of May in Rwanda. Look, Ovie, we speak about it all the time about this league wanting to be global and how much talent there is around the world, but seeing steps like this, how excited are you for this progression from the NBA?
Oh, I'm more than excited. You know, I think it's something that should have happened a long time ago. You know, there's obviously structured leagues in Europe that, you know, help bring up the European players. You know, you see structure in the leagues in Asia. You know, you've got stuff going on. You've got a decent league down there in Australia, South America. Everywhere has their own thing going on, and I think Africa, for the amount of talent that's there on the continent, like it should have been happened, but I am very, very happy that it's finally gotten to this stage. You know, I'm pretty close with Pops, who spent some time in the NBA, and he's obviously of Ghanaian descent. I know he spent a lot of time over there in Africa. I know guys like Mutombo have been huge in pushing, you know, what's going on in Africa. You know, there's a long list. You know, so I think for the amount of talent over there, it's definitely the move that I think a lot of people have been waiting for, and I think we should all be excited to see what happens with this league.
Mo, it is exciting news, because I think about some of the prominent players in this league: Spicy P, Pascal Siakam, Joel Embiid, and of course, you know, all about sort of the different players that have come out of Africa, Giannis Antetokounmpo, just to mention a few, that have developed and gone on to become superstars in this league. Is it finally good that Africa is getting the spotlight that probably thoroughly deserves?
Of course. It's an amazing thing that the NBA are doing with the Basketball Africa League, and it's fantastic that a lot of these players can have the opportunity to have the spotlight shone on them where perhaps they would have flown under the radar beforehand. And what we're going to see is, you know, the NBA becoming an ever increasingly international league. Like, we're already seeing the impact of European players or players that have come out of Europe on the NBA now. So we're seeing the MVPs in Giannis and Jokic up there with the best of them, and Rudy Gobert as a defensive player and those kind of things. And now it's just adding more players from another continent to those conversations, because I feel like there is so much talent that has gone undiscovered, because, you know, a lot of making the NBA, there's so many talented basketball players out there, but a lot of making the NBA is the opportunities that you're given to in your life. You know, if you're a player who's, you know, Joel Embiid went to Kansas and then went to the NBA, but that's not to say that there isn't someone who can be just as talented, but perhaps they didn't get recruited by Kansas University, so no one has had their eyes drafting them or scouting them. So, you know, I feel like there's a lot of players out there in the continent of Africa that are going to come to the NBA in a few years' time and be real stars that people haven't heard about right now.
I'm loving sort of the progression that you're seeing in terms of, think about the World Deng's camp that he does here in Britain, but he has huge links in Sudan as well, and the things that he does to make things global. But BJ, this is harder work for you now, right? Because you got to get your agent, you got to get your scouts now in Africa as well. I know you got links in Europe, but I'm guessing you're excited at the same time because you get an opportunity to look at even more talent.
Well, I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled that, you know, that the continent of Africa is actually getting themselves organized and having the infrastructure to put on such an event, and to have so many young people, men and women, that will be exposed to this game. You know, the thing that I'm excited most about, besides the players, obviously, and the talent that will be coming, from Africa is the following. I can't wait to see the coaches and the people who will be organizing these games and the people who will actually have an imprint on the youth that will be coming through, because you have such amazing talent, but the coaching, the style of play, we have such incredible athletes. We have so many people that will be playing and participating in the game at a level that we haven't seen. So I'm really enthusiastic about it. It's been incredible for this all to come together so quickly. But more importantly, I think it's going to be some amazing talent that's going to have an impact on the entire world.
Impact in the entire world. I actually love that, BJ. That's my favorite quote I've heard today. But there's still a long time left on the show. And as you know, we're about to dive into Hot or Not. And trust me, there's going to be a few spicy takes this week. So we saw it, right? The big market teams all making some big moves. We saw what LA did. We saw what Brooklyn have done. And guys, can we just have an honest conversation now? Yeah, because I need to assess this. The depth of this Brooklyn Nets roster has had me scratching my head. I look at the accolades, and we've already seen the headlines. Look, we haven't seen this many All-Stars together since the Boston Celtics in 2010. Yeah, shout out to you, man. Of course. But I'm breaking this down, and all of these guys buying into this situation, staying engaged, I actually feel this is over. I think the Brooklyn Nets have taken it too far. And in the spirit of basketball, I cannot agree with what they're doing because they are destroying competition everywhere. The Brooklyn Nets have taken it too far. BJ, what do you think?
Well, you know what? I want to be short and sweet here. I'm okay with them getting as many players as they can. It's because the way the game is played. It's a game that's played with pace and space. The game is played with guards who dominate the ball. And there's one player in particular that to me has saved the entire season for the Brooklyn Nets, and that has been James Harden. James Harden's play is one that's saving the regular season. I think Kevin Durant is the X factor. If he's healthy, that puts them over the top. But the other additions, okay, you have Blake Griffin. Okay, you have LaMarcus Aldridge. Okay, you know, Kyrie Irving's going to be Kyrie Irving. But I'm not like saying, oh, they're going to win it because of those other two guys. And the last two guys that they just acquired, and talking about Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. I'm not convinced of that. I am convinced that Kevin Durant is the X factor here, and Kyrie Irving is going to do what Kyrie Irving does. But if without James Harden here steering this ship during the regular season, I'm not sure we're talking about it. So I think there's a lot of basketball to be played. I'm not sure if this team can beat Philadelphia when it's said and done, if they're healthy with Joel Embiid. So I'm excited about the competition of the league. I'm really excited about this, but it makes for good theater. It makes for good headlines. But I'm not convinced that Brooklyn is head and shoulders above anyone, especially in the Eastern Conference.
Oh. Okay, I need to take a deep breath here because I've tried to weigh up this roster, Mo. I've looked at it and I've seen, look, Blake Griffin is not the Blake Griffin from 5-6 years ago. LaMarcus Aldridge is not the all-star that we've known. They were both perennial all-stars at one point. They're not those at this moment in their career. But you still have James Harden on that roster. You still have DJ. You still have KD. You still have Kyrie. We haven't spoken about any of the important role pieces. Like, you tell me, who can stop them if they're healthy? And if that is the case, that means the Nets have taken it too far, Mo.
Well, first of all, Jaydee, I'm a little bit confused why you're mentioning DeAndre Jordan in the same sentence as Kyrie, Harden, and Kevin Durant, as if DeAndre Jordan's some sort of superstar we should all be worried about. Oh no, DeAndre Jordan's going to drop 30 piece on us. That ain't happening. Listen, Brooklyn Nets have not gone too far.
Okay.
Brooklyn Nets have not gone too far. It is their job to assemble the best basketball team possible. How can you be mad that they're going out and adding these guys to their squad? Every other team would be happy if these players had joined their squad, but they're just hating because it's on another team. You know, I really don't see what the issue is. What do you expect the Brooklyn Nets to do? These guys buy themselves out of their contract. That's right. Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge left money on the table so that they could go and join another squad. What do you want Brooklyn to do? Say, oh no, we don't want the fans to be angry with us. Don't sign with us. Go and sign with another team and play against us instead. Is that what you were expecting to happen? Is that what the fans really thought was going to happen? No. These guys have said to their teams that they're not contenders. Detroit and San Antonio, they're not contending for a title. They said, listen, we'll pay you back some of the money from our contracts. These guys paid about $6-7 million to leave those franchises. So, as far as I'm concerned, they can do whatever they want. And here's my whole thing with this, right? We're talking as if the Brooklyn Nets have just gone and won 3 straight championships. They've not even won a playoff series yet. And we're crowning them as champions already. We're saying that they've gone too far. It's not like this roster is completely indestructible. It's not like they added 2 great defenders to their team. Look, we're talking about Blake Griffin. A few months ago, everyone's talking about how washed Blake Griffin was. Now he joins the Nets. Suddenly he's an all-star and we count his all-star appearances. Same with LaMarcus Aldridge. We're talking about how immobile he is and how he looks out of place on defense and uncomfortable because he can't move his feet laterally. But now that he joins the Brooklyn Nets, suddenly it's 6-time all-star LaMarcus Aldridge. Oh no, the Brooklyn Nets have got 50 all-star appearances on it. Well, so what? If that means if they go sign Jeff Teague tomorrow, they're going to say, oh, they've signed another all-star. He's not an all-star. These are all in the past. You got to take things for how they are this season, right? The Brooklyn Nets, the best piece of business they did was trading for James Harden. Because if they didn't make that trade, none of these conversations happen, as BJ said, right? Now they've traded for James Harden. They're simply doing what every other team in the league wants to do. They're adding the players that they believe are the best available on the buyout market to their roster. Now, is it their fault that players want to join them? No, they're just doing their job. If you're a GM, your job is to recruit the best players to your team, and that's exactly what they've done. I can't be mad at them. If anything, I think this is a good thing. Do you know why? Because you guys remember last year in the playoffs when the Clippers got knocked out. You remember how I was talking when the Clippers went home and the Denver Nuggets sent them packing. All I'm saying is, if the Brooklyn Nets lose in the playoffs this year, we're going to need a 2-hour episode of Heat Check because you're going to want to hear me say some things about the Brooklyn Nets. So Mr. Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, if you're listening, if you're watching, do not tune into the Heat Check if you do not win an NBA championship this summer because there is going to be some serious conversations because we all love a villain. We all love the villain of the NBA. It makes the storyline so much more exciting. When the Warriors were stacked, it was exciting to see if the Cavs could defeat them. When LeBron James's Miami Heat team was stacked, it was exciting to see, if another team could come along and beat them. Everyone loves a villain in a story. Everyone loves to see it, whether they can admit it or not. I think it's fantastic. We've got more people talking about the NBA than ever. I've got people who aren't even NBA fans that are asking me about the moves that the Brooklyn Nets are making. And I think it's fantastic. It's got everyone talking about the league, and now everyone is going to be tuned in for the playoffs, especially when these guys go to a Game 7 or something in their playoff run. Man, it's going to be some must-see TV.
Ovie, you've seen the meme, right? Of the baller that goes around and says, I'm 36! I'm 36! How many more guys do you want to add? I'm 36! Yeah. These Brooklyn Nets have got LeBron. He's 36! Brooklyn Nets have got LeBron looking like Thanos out here. What's going on?
Let me tell you. I have to agree with these guys. And I say they haven't gone too far because I feel like if they do go to the playoffs and they continue to do as they're expected to do, now it brings back up that conversation. Remember we talked about a few episodes back. If they lose, it's win or go home for them. You know what I'm saying? It's do or die for them. Now it's turned it into that situation. Now with all of these names that they've brought onto their roster, not saying that all of these guys are still going to perform. Blake's not going to be Blake that was drafted in 08. Aldridge, likewise, whatever. But now you have all of these names. It's all of a sudden turned into, hey, these guys have to win it this year. Now they have to. There's no time for, these guys have time to mesh and wait till next season. They're moving. They haven't said it, but they're moving how, remember when LeBron James and D Wade and Bosh were on stage and they were saying, we're not going to bring 1, not 2, not 3, this is the vibe it gives me, the way they're going on now. Blake, he's come back, hasn't dunked in years, hasn't dove on a ball in his life.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, Blake Griffin, the first highlight I see after I go off running my mouth is Blake Griffin diving for a loose ball. I was like, okay, but that tells you that they feel it. They feel like, okay, well, now I'm on a team with these other 4 big-time guys. And that's not even to mention their bench and their role players. They've got really solid role players on that team. But now they know, and I feel like there's that pressure there. So, you know what? I don't think they've gone too far, but I think it's brought some... it's brought some entertainment back. It's brought some entertainment back to the NBA, and I quite like it. And I also think this really is just part of LeBron James' story. You know, it gives LeBron James It gives him another enemy. It gives him another enemy to take down. This is all part of LeBron James' story. These guys are just making LeBron James greater. That's all I'm saying.
I want to know, what's the compulsive need in NBA conversations for LeBron James to be dragged into every conversation?
Because he's the man.
Is Brooklyn.
That's what happens.
No.
That's what happens. Mo, let me tell you, Mo, when you're the man, your name just pops up. You don't understand it.
Ovie,
LeBron the man.
let me tell you, I am the man and my name do be popping up, so you don't need to warn me about that. But let me tell you this, okay? Let me tell you this.
Okay.
Let me tell you this, okay? The Brooklyn Nets have not done anything differently to anyone else. Let's go back 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. Kyrie and KD team up in Brooklyn. LeBron goes off to LA and forces Anthony Davis to get traded to LA. Kawhi goes to the Clippers and forces Paul George to be traded to the Clippers, right? Those three teams have all got duos. All we're seeing is the Brooklyn Nets are simply better at business. They simply traded for James Harden, right? So I put this on Philly, I put this on Miami, I put this on all the other teams that didn't trade for James Harden. And now they're in a position where they're attracting the best players. But let's say that Harden trade hadn't happened, okay? Say that Harden trade hadn't happened, hypothetically.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be as good as they are right now. They would be in the middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference because KD's missing games, Kyrie's missing games. They'd be struggling right now. Spencer Dinwiddie's injured. So now, say that Harden trade hadn't happened, Blake Griffin hits the buyout market, LaMarcus Aldridge hits the buyout market. You best believe they would have gone to the Lakers, and no one can tell me otherwise. If they didn't go to the Brooklyn Nets, you best believe they would have gone to the LA Lakers. So what's it got to do with LeBron James? Like, there's no way Blake Griffin was sat in his house and thought, I need to beat LeBron James. Let me go and join. Why is LeBron James got to be in the conversation?
At the end of the day, because this is what it's about at the end of the day. These guys aren't building these... No one did it until LeBron James did it, really. Not at a young age, not, you know what I'm saying? Not until they didn't have any other options, at least. You know, Boston did it, but you guys did it in a very different way. It wasn't the same. You feel what I'm saying? So,
but what I mean to say,
this era of super teams, it's all about LeBron. Of course, it's about LeBron James. He will be brought up. As long as there's super teams, I'll let you finish. Just let me finish this last point. As long as there's super teams, LeBron James has to be brought up. You can't bring up super teams without mentioning LeBron James.
Oh yeah, yeah. But what I'm saying is. Why does LeBron need to be in these conversations? Not so much to the point that you just mentioned there. It's to when I see fans that are talking about, oh, look how much help KD needs to beat LeBron James, or all of these superstars to beat one 36-year-old guy in the finals. Well, do you really think the Brooklyn Nets sit in their front office with a picture of LeBron James on the wall and they throw darts at it, thinking of ways to beat this? No, they don't. They're just trying to build the best team possible.
Every other 29 teams has a picture of LeBron James up in their office thinking about how to beat him. It ain't just Brooklyn. Every other team that's not the Lakers has a picture of a GOAT with a Lakers jersey and a 2-3 and thinking about... Because LeBron James has been that guy to beat since Yonkers. What are you talking about?
Can I just jump in, guys?
He's been that guy to beat. Talk to me. Hey, BJ, you quiet over there. Talk to me.
Yeah, real quick. This is the first time in a long time, guys, that you're seeing the vulnerability that other teams thoroughly believe. They don't think it now. They believe they can beat the LA Lakers and LeBron James. That's why his name is coming up. LeBron James has been the standard for so long now that now when we look at the leagues, let's look at the Eastern Conference. Milwaukee, they're all in. Philadelphia's all in. Brooklyn's all in. The Denver Nuggets, what they just did at the trading deadline, they're all in. Utah, they're all in. The Clippers, they're all in. This is the first time now where there's more than like two teams. There were the Warriors and the Cavs. There were the Cavs and the Warriors. Now people believe that there's a little chink in the armor. And this is really good for the NBA. So you want to know why LeBron James names keep coming up? Well, he's the standard. And everyone knows.
LeBron James is the guy to beat.
But I will say this, and then Bob will turn over. But this is the first time now Brooklyn believes that they can win it. Brooklyn believes that. You can't tell the Denver Nuggets right now with the trades they just made. They're not going to win it. The Utah Jazz, they're the best record in the league. And we're not even talking about Ovie's team, the Phoenix Suns. they're sitting like in second place.
Yeah, but
There is some real
here what I'm
parity
saying,
now
though.
in the NBA.
But hear what I'm saying, though, okay? Let's take, for example, signing LaMarcus Aldridge. There is no way that signing LaMarcus Aldridge in the minds of Brooklyn Nets is something to do with the Lakers. Because LaMarcus Aldridge, when the Lakers go small, if they do meet in the finals and play AD at the 5, you can't play LaMarcus Aldridge against Anthony Davis at the 5 spot. You just simply can't on both ends of the floor, barbecue chicken, right? So the Brooklyn Nets signing these guys, what I'm trying to say is, they're signing these guys because they want to sign the best available players or stopping their rival team from signing these guys. They're not signing these guys thinking about LeBron James. They're not thinking, how are we going to stop LeBron James winning? Let's sign LaMarcus Aldridge. That's not the thought process. That's all I'm saying. That's not the thought process.
But hear this. It only makes sense that they're trying to beat LeBron James. These guys are the reigning champs. After Steph Curry and Golden State Warriors, they started getting hot and they won a couple championships. Well, the way the league started changing, you started seeing everyone started playing small ball. Before those guys, people weren't playing small ball like that. It wasn't.
Yes, they were. LeBron James started out with the Miami Heat.
No.
All right, everyone. Everyone, look.
Same way.
All I'm saying to you is...
Not the same way. It's
Look,
completely different.
Going with
Draymond Green at the 5, Iggy at the 4, that's a different kind of small ball than LeBron James. Because LeBron James, really, when he's on the team, he can play the 4-5, and he possibly could be the biggest guy on the floor. That's not crazy. So small ball with LeBron James, and then small ball with, sniper, scrawny, Steph Curry, Trey Tompkins, all these guys, Harrison Barnes. Like these are thoroughbred. These are 2-3s kind of guys. And then Draymond Green, who's, he's a tweener, but he obviously held down the 5. But that's a different kind of game. But my point being, the whole league started playing that style to try and beat them. So now with the Lakers at the helm, at the front, hey, bro, it only makes sense.
It does make sense. All I'm going to say is
go ahead.
Everybody's trying to beat Thanos. Yeah, it's true. It's true what they say. Everybody is trying to beat the man. But everyone also is buying into this Brooklyn culture, which is looking a lot like the Avengers assembling right now. Look, shout out to James Harden, who's making his MVP case. But one thing you did actually talk about, Ovie, was Draymond Green. Of course, he revolutionized the small ball in terms of that 5 position. And he's been talking this week. And as you can see below, he hasn't been shy about how he feels about himself. So I need to know, how you guys feel about this. And BJ, I actually want to come to you first, because when I saw this headline right here, I thought to myself at first, I laughed. I was like, what? Has he missed out like so many players in history? Michael Jordan, just list them all. Bill Russell, Hakeem Olajuwon, they're all there. But I slowly took it in, BJ, and I thought about it. And I said, number one, I have to give him credit. You have to believe you're the best. But number two, in an NBA which is harder to defend than any other time, does Draymond have a case to say that he is the best defender ever? BJ Armstrong, you played defense every season I watched you play in the NBA. You took pride in your defense. You know what it takes to be a defensive stopper in this league at the guard position, and you played with some of the best bigs as well. You tell me, Draymond Green believes he is the best defender to ever play this game. What do you think?
BJ, you want me to answer for you?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I know that.
I couldn't hear JD. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I couldn't hear.
I know the OGs ain't want to hear this take, right? But first and foremost, I gotta say this. I got a lot of love for Draymond. He's a great guy, and I love the self-belief more than anything. Because if you don't believe you're the best, then you're not a real competitor. So I respect him coming out and saying this about himself. But what I think people need to take into account is defense in the NBA now is very different to defense in the NBA in years previous. As I was saying before, when the LeBron James Miami Heat came along and LeBron made that transition from the 3 to the 4 or really playing that small ball, that's when teams started to go with the switching everything on defense. That's why nowadays, a defender like Draymond, who's somewhat of a Swiss Army knife, despite not being the biggest guy, he can guard all the positions all the way through, is so valuable. So I can see if Draymond came out and said he's the best defender of this era, I could see as a leg to stand on. But if we go back to years past and we think about great defenders in this league, in an era where you were given your defensive assignment and you were going to go and match up with him, we're talking about the Scottie Pippins of the world. We're talking about the Gary Paytons of the world, the Michael Jordans of the world. Those were great defenders that would lock down their matchup against some of the best talents the NBA has ever seen. And then if we're going to talk about big men, you had guys that left other players scared to even come into the paint. I'm talking about Dikembe Mutombo, Hakeem Olajuwon, of course, Bill Russell, David Robinson. Anyone's scared of Draymond Green? I've never seen a player thinking about taking a layup, seeing Draymond Green in the lane, and then not. Am I mistaken? With all due respect to Draymond, who I think is a great player.
No.
I just don't think he strikes fear into the opponents the same way that these guys do. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I wouldn't say he does because of his defensive skills necessarily, but he's definitely the enforcer on that team. Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't strike fair as far as Gobert. Okay, you wouldn't go in the lane because he's gonna swat your shot. Giannis or what, but he strikes fair into opposition. Let's not get it twisted. Draymond Green is. I'd
say this, Draymond Green,
and people don't just play with Draymond. I'm not saying I think he's wild for that statement. Absolutely wild.
Ovie, are you agreeing? Is it a hot take? Is it a hot take?
No,
yes or no?
Of course I'm not agreeing with that. That's a wild statement. All three of us, we're just trying to discuss our different points and why it's wild. But no, he obviously I think he does give that fear factor. Otherwise, I don't think the Golden State Warriors win not one of the championships that they won.
Because there's no
at the
doubt.
end of the day, he was the guy on that. He was the Rodman on that team. So, however, he's wilding. He's not the best defender today in the NBA. He's tripping.
Let's try this.
There's no doubt about Draymond, right? This is the difference, right? I think Draymond Green has one of the best basketball IQs that I've seen in a long time in the NBA. He knows what set the other team's about to run. He knows the plays 3 steps ahead before they've even been made. He's the voice of that, as Ovie was saying, that Warriors defense that was so successful. But having said that, we've seen, I don't know if you guys remember a time on NBA Twitter a few years ago where people were talking about Draymond Green if he matched up with prime Shaquille O'Neal. I just want everyone to know that prime Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon, whoever you want, would make barbecue chicken out of this guy, with all due respect, because I think Draymond is great, but let's just keep it 100.
And that wouldn't end well. That wouldn't
end well. We're in an NBA. We're in a different NBA now.
Let me come at a different angle for you, BJ. Let me come at a different angle for you. Yeah? Because I understand. Yeah? I respect. I know your man was that straight away. Yeah, Draymond's my guy. Yeah, I love Draymond. Yeah, shout out to all the things he's done down in Oakland. I got connects down there. Yeah, but BJ, if Draymond is not the best player in the NBA in terms of the best defender ever, who is the best defender ever?
Well, when you start saying ever, you have to take into account the following. And being a purist, and I try to be a purist because playing the game, watching the game, observing the game, but most importantly, respect to the game. You just take these 2 guys behind me, right? You're talking Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, and over here I got Bill Russell, right? Rim protection has been an essential part of the NBA since the beginning, right? Since 1946. Then you start talking about, let's just take today's players. You start talking about Kawhi Leonard. You start talking about Giannis. You start talking about Tim Duncan. You start talking about all these players, whether it's Gary Payton, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. One player in particular, I've never seen a player have the impact of an Hakeem Olajuwon, because Hakeem Olajuwon affected every player in the locker room. As a guard, you didn't come off a screen roll the same way when Hakeem Olajuwon jumped out, because he was so quick. His hands were so quick. You didn't curl if you were a 2 guard, because Hakeem Olajuwon was going to be there to block the shot. You didn't attack the rim that day. You didn't attack the basket if you were a 4 or 5. So Hakeem Olajuwon and these players, they affected the game in a way that infected the entire team, not just one particular aspect of the game. There's so many elements of the game, but the biggest point I want to make here is that the rules of the game were different then, right? Today, when you say I'm the greatest defensive player, the one thing that you don't see in today's game as compared to the game 20 years ago is post defense, because no one runs to the post. No one plays post defense. So now I start thinking of Karl Malone. I start thinking of Charles Barkley. I start thinking of all of these players who played from the post because that was that era. So I'm not really saying ever, but what I will say is this. It takes a certain level of athlete and rim protection and athleticism like Wilt Chamberlain, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like Tim Duncan, Dikembe Mutombo. That will have an effect since the beginning until now, right? You saw what the players are doing now. You're getting Andre Drummond. You see the Denver Nuggets getting JaVale McGee. You see what Brooklyn is doing, getting LaMarcus Aldridge. That part will always be there in the game. I don't know who's the greatest ever, but what I do know is that if you look at all of the things and you sum it all up, if Bill Russell is not there, winning 11 championships in 13 years, he's not one of the greatest defensive players. He's one of the greatest players of all time, and he wasn't really an offensive player at all. That says something about what his impact was on winning the game as the team's best player. I think that has some weight to it. I think people have to look at it, but more importantly, he created a culture just on his defensive presence alone. That says something. I don't know what it says, but it says something. But I don't know who is the greatest ever, but certainly I'm going to start right there with Bill Russell.
Oh, spoken like a true OG on this platform. I love that. You have to take it back to the greats. Shout out to Bill Russell. But talking about one elite big that's historically good and another one that's still creating his legacy, it actually takes me to the final hot take, which is about, of course, Andre Drummond. We already know he's historically an elite rebounder in this league. Probably one of puts himself into contention as one of the elite bigs in today's NBA. But of course, he moved to the Lakers this week, and he's had a lot to say about his introductions.
For me, I'm just here to help in any capacity it may be in. I'm not here to do anything besides win. So I think playing with those guys can really benefit my game, be able to allow them to play their game and have a third person to, cause havoc in the paint. Yeah, speaking to coach today, my defensive game is going to help this team out a lot with my quick feet, my quick hands, and able to, recover and play 1 through 5. So I think our defense is going to be really crazy when those guys come back, and I'm looking forward to it. For me, I thought it was just the best fit. I think being here, I'm able to come in right away and impact this team defensively, just in my toughness on both sides of the court, but mainly defensively, just coming here to be the anchor for this team.
It seems like Dre's ready to make his presence felt down on the West Coast, and of course, moving from Cleveland to LA. Look, I love Cleveland, but it's LA. So Ovie, I just want you to understand the impact that Andre Drummond's about to have down in LA. But some of the viewers agree a little bit differently. They actually think that he won't accept the role that was left by Dwight Howard last year. Where do you see Dre fitting in for the Lakers?
Well, let me just say this first, when you join LeBron James's team, everything changes. Whatever you did on your previous team, whatever numbers you put up, whatever kind of player you think you were, with the exception of some very, very elite talent, otherwise, everyone else pretty much does what's asked of them when you're on LeBron James's team. Because now, all of a sudden, the emphasis is no longer on what points you can put up, having an amazing game. Amazing games are expected. That's the standard that LeBron James sets. However, you have to do what's asked of you, and people joke around about it a lot. LeBron James, I don't know the guy personally, but it's been known, if you're not pulling your weight, LeBron James will get you out of there. Forget the GM, LeBron James will get you out of there, So I think Drummond's gonna go in there and he's gonna do what's asked of him. He's there to win a championship. And LeBron James and a couple of the other pieces that are there from last year's championship team, along with some of the new talent, they're all there just to do one thing, and that's just to win. So as we saw from his interview just a couple of seconds ago, I think you can see he's gone in there with the right mindset. I think he's gone in there with a humble mindset, and I think there was even a tweet, however long ago, where he said, one of his biggest aspirations is to play alongside and meet LeBron James. Well, here goes his chance not to only do that, but to compete for a championship. So I think he won't have a problem playing his role.
BJ, we've
cold
seen the
one.
gap that's been left by Dwight and JaVale in terms of with defending champions roster last year to where they are right now. But do you see Andre Drummond basically fitting into that same role, being a younger version, probably a fitter version, probably be able to put more points and more rebounds up on the board? Or do you see him doing more?
Well, everyone is looking at this, signing with enthusiasm, as they should, because clearly you can see the gap that was left from Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee from a year ago. When they signed Marc Gasol, everyone kept saying that was an answer, that was an upgrade. And so far, that hasn't been the case when they signed Marc Gasol. So my first question is, what is this going to do to Marc Gasol? All right, assuming that they're just going to put him on the bench. Now, if you bring in Drummond, what is this going to do for your offense and your offensive spacing? Because we can't forget that this is a league where pace and space is the essential, because this game, the way the rules are set up, it's going to take advantage of the offensive players, because the offensive players have to be able to attack the rim. Where's that going to leave Andre Drummond? He is not a player or a five-man that can space the floor. So how many minutes can you actually have on the floor with a big who can't provide the space that's necessary? So that's going to take away from LeBron James' ability to do what LeBron James does best. He has to attack a basket, especially late in ball games. So I'm not sure that he's going to be playing 30-plus minutes in a playoff series like we're all talking about here, because, there isn't enough space on the floor. I think, as they did a year ago, Anthony Davis has to play the five once the playoffs begins. So that's my first take on it. Now, do I think Andre Drummond has the physical qualities to do some of the things that Joel Embiid and JaVale McGee did? Yes. But there are only three centers right now that's going to play 30-plus minutes in the playoffs that I can see. Jokic, Joel Embiid, and Rudy Gobert. Okay? And those first two that I named, Jokic and Embiid, Drummond is not getting those touches on the offensive end. So let's take that away. So that means, can he do what Rudy Gobert does? That's a big question. That's a big question. And if you're saying Rudy Gobert is going to be your player, you better shoot the ball like the Utah Jazz to offset what he does. So to me, this looks good on paper. It looks good when you match up against the other big guys. But when you boil it down, Anthony Davis has to be the five, because that is the advantage for the LA Lakers. Anthony Davis at the five, not for the full entirety of the 48 minutes, but you better put 30-plus minutes with Anthony Davis there if you're talking about winning a championship.
That's an interesting point. Roster and sort of how Frank Vogel puts that all together is going to be interesting, Mo, because one deficiency that everyone's maybe looking over is what happens if they start hacking at Dre, especially down the stretch. You're talking about only 47% he's averaged in his entire career from the shoot line. So, like, I'm looking at it, Mo, and I'm thinking to myself, as BJ says, it looks good on paper. For 30 minutes, it could look good. But is this enough to give them a championship?
Well, one thing I got to say is, Jaydee, you're my guy. I got a lot of love for you, my brother, but it's been 10 minutes now, and I'm still completely disgusted that you went from talking about Bill Russell, and then you said, speaking of a legendary big man, and then you said Andre Drummond.
Andre Drummond is an elite. Wait. Andre Drummond is an elite rebounder in this league. No. Elite rebounder.
Andre Drummond. There's a GM in this league who has said Andre Drummond.
Elite big man today. That's exactly what I said. Elite big man today.
He's not, though. He's not an elite big man. He's not.
Okay.
He's not.
Why not?
There's a GM. He's an elite big man if you're playing NBA 2K. He's an elite big man if you look at the box scores. Does he have an elite impact on the game? When was the last time you turned on an NBA game and saw Andre Drummond dominating? There's a GM that has said Andre Drummond can give you a 30 and 20 game and still have zero impact on the court. Okay? First of all, most of those rebounds that he gets are his own misses that he's collecting off the backboard and trying to put back in. Okay? Now, this is not to disrespect Andre Drummond. I get he's got a good skill set. There are ways.
You already crossed the line, Mo. You might as well dive in now.
I'm just stating the facts.
You already crossed the line.
I'm just stating the facts.
You might as well dive in now.
I'm just stating the facts, right? I'm just stating the facts, okay? We're about to see, what you guys aren't considering here, is we're about to see potentially the biggest ever drop in pay for an NBA player in their prime who hasn't been injured. Andre Drummond is making almost $30 million a season. He's a free agent this summer. He's not going to get offered, in my opinion, from what I've seen around the league, what I've heard around the league from different teams. He's not going to be offered that again this summer. So we're going to see a player drop off that significant from a max contract to, I don't know what he's going to get, but it's not going to be a max contract, right? So you've got to bear in mind, he's playing for the Lakers, yes, but he's also playing for his next contract as well. So when it comes to accepting a Dwight Howard style role, he has to accept that if he does go ahead and accept the Dwight Howard style role, he's going to accept a Dwight Howard style veteran minimum contract for the next team he signs. That's the factor that's playing in my mind, because at the end of the day, this is all just a business. Now, I have no doubt that he can contribute to this Lakers team, especially in the regular season with the injuries that they're suffering. You know, he's a decent role man on the pick and roll. I wouldn't personally give him a lot of post-ups. The same way they got Dwight Howard away from post-ups last season and focused mainly on the pick and roll. Drummond's a nice passer. He can operate out of the elbows. He can work well in the dribble handoff situations. And then on the defensive end, he does have quick hands, quick feet, and he can move quite well. So there are good things about his game. But as BJ said, in the playoffs, Anthony Davis slides over to that 5 spot and they go small just to put more shooting on the floor, because the Lakers aren't the best team in terms of spacing the floor. Unless they're playing against the Denver Nuggets or a team with an elite big man that they need to put a big body on, I don't know if they will actually give him any minutes, or maybe just 5 minutes in a playoff series. You know, I think that we're overestimating this move because Andre Drummond has made an all-star team before, because he makes a lot of money, because he's a big name. But when we look at it factually, as BJ said, he can't shoot the ball. What can he offer you on offense? You're essentially playing a 4-on-5 offense kind of thing.
Guys, come on. Yo. We gotta put a little bit more respect on Drummond. No one's...
Okay, tell me.
Listen, just listen. Let me finish. I'll tell you right now, if you don't jump in front of me. This is exactly why you go and play alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Because, okay, if you're not the best offensive player, yeah, you have to pull your weight. And in my own opinion, once the game slows down in the playoffs, he's going to need to finish. That's what he's going to need to do. And that's what he's done pretty much. That's what he's best at, finishing around the rim, catches, and he can be a solid screener. Cool. No one's saying that he's going to go there and all of a sudden turn into this offensive. That's not what he's been his whole career. But that's not what they need right now. The Lakers aren't missing offense. They're missing defense. Defense is what they need. They need someone to hold down the paint the same way Dwight Howard and JaVale did. And if you ask me, Drummond's a huge upgrade from those guys, because he is still younger. He's still closer to his prime. And I do think he can be solid on the offensive end. The way we're talking about him on offense, I've seen worse players play in the playoffs on offense. I've seen worse. Okay. I've seen worse. So do you see what I'm saying? Now, later on down the line, will they go with different matchups? Yeah, of course. That's a privilege you have when you have so many guys and a deep roster like the Lakers have. But, to go on like, oh, this guy's not going to get 5 minutes in the playoffs all of a sudden. Guys, come on.
Okay. Tell me how many minutes did Dwight Howard get then? Last season, outside of the Denver series, how many minutes did Dwight get in the playoffs?
He's not Dwight Howard. Come on, let's quit tripping.
So now tell me, what's the difference?
Stop acting like he's on the back end of his career. I still think.
Well, what's the difference though? What's the difference between them? But tell me, what does he have in him that Dwight Howard doesn't?
He's a bigger presence, in my opinion. Dwight Howard took on that role of just being the Energizer Bunny. Cool. But no, they're like, he's not Drummond now. Maybe earlier on.
Don't let age confuse you. Don't let age confuse you. First of all, Dwight Howard is still an elite athlete. Second of all, watch Dwight Howard play basketball, bro. You wouldn't be able to tell me that he's at the end of his career.
Of course he's on the back end of his career. You think he's still got 15
Watch him play.
He's on the back
You watch him play, he's as good as any other backup big in the league.
Mo. I'm a basketball player. I'm going to tell you this one for free. Father Time don't lose. He's on the back end of his career, period. Not saying that he's not good for his age. He's not in good shape for his age. Cool. But when you look at how the league looks and the athletic freaks that there are in the NBA today, I would put Drummond up there before I would put Howard in the middle of that. And that's not to say Howard's all of a sudden a slouch. No, the guy he's athletically gifted. Cool. However, you guys are tripping on this Drummond one, man. Drummond's, hey.
Okay, but I'm still waiting for you to tell me the difference. Except for his age, what's the difference between them?
He's still in
You
his
still haven't
prime,
listed
Mo.
one
I think-
on-court
I think
difference
he'll
between
give
them
the-
besides
look at
their
his
age.
numbers. The numbers, there's a lot more than one difference. A lot more than one, Mo.
Okay. I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the numbers, Ovie, and all I'm saying is do not play all the way since January. So you tell me what? If he was so effective and so in his prime and so great, why has he not been playing?
Yeah, we know that's a business
Everyone can
decision,
count DNPs, but obviously we're talking about when he does play. All right. So if I
Okay,
have
so
to
when he does
explain
play,
that to
tell
you,
me the difference.
I'll explain that to you. Right now, he's better right now than Dwight Howard is. Period. Do you think they're the same?
Okay. No. But I'm asking you.
Wait, hold on.
I'm asking you for one basketball reason why he's better than Dwight Howard aside from his age, and you haven't given me one. What's he better at on the court? They both can do the same thing. What's he said? What's he said? What's he better at?
He said he's better at. He said he's better around the rim. He said he's better in terms of an athlete.
Right now,
And he said he's better at rebounding. He did say those two things.
Obviously, he plays more minutes. But anyway, that besides the point. If you would pick, what's it called? Dwight Howard for you're missing a pick. Who would you pick, Mo? Dwight Howard or Drummond? You're missing.
What, to come in and contribute for a playoff run?
Boston's bigs are trash. So who would you pick? Dwight Howard or Drummond? Go on, you need one. So who would you pick?
I would rather have Dwight Howard on my team than Andre Drummond.
Cool.
No shadow of a doubt.
Fair enough. And that's
And
why
if
Boston-
you watch the Sixers play and you watch the Cavaliers play when they have Drummond, you would say the same thing.
Now he's getting extra minutes, and JaVale was playing very well with the Cat. So anyway,
Yeah. All right. Well, at least we know that Mooncey will die behind his hot take.
That's what that's turned into. That's what that's turned into.
I just call what I see on the court. I just call what I see. I don't need to watch the box scores or the players' ages. I call what I see on the court when I watch the games.
One thing we know is that Andre Drummond has brought a lot of excitement, especially to La La Land, because they needed it. Because the Brooklyn Nets definitely made their statement in terms of after the trade deadline. And let's jump into primetime preview because they are our team for this weekend.
I know who I am as a player. We're going to keep going from here. I'm not satisfied. I'm looking forward to this next challenge.
Lob for LaMarcus. Don't get it. Oh, my! James Harden for three. Oh! Woo! That's what I'm talking about right there. Griffin on the move. There's the dunk. BB. You done made him mad. Oh, DeAndre Jordan. This is how you close out games, Bulls fans.
Yes, this Sunday we're back in the studio and it's a good one. It's the right one. The Brooklyn Nets against the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls currently on a 4-game losing streak ahead of their game against Phoenix this week, and the Nets have been steamrolling every opponent in their way behind the MVP candidate James Harden. Sky Sports Arena, 7 p.m. also available on the Sky Sports YouTube for my guys that are the streamers out here. BJ, there's only one place to start, and that's with the Chicago Bulls. They made a few notable acquisitions: Nikola Jokic, Al-Farouq Amino. We even saw Troy Brown Jr., Daniel Tice, respectively from Washington and Boston. I've liked the additions. They made the noise last week, especially in the East. But how good are they now? Can they actually compete in the Eastern Conference now they've added all these pieces around Zach LaVine?
Well, I think with the acquisition of Vucevic from Orlando, from your team, your guy, they got a lot of headlines. They really made a big splash, an all-star. They paired him with another all-star in Zach LaVine. So with those two, now you have the expectations. However, in the first two games, their defense has been something to be desired. I don't know who this team is going to defend. I don't know who they're going to stop. Lloyd Marketing, Vucevic. I don't know if that's the rim protection you're looking for. So I think when they made this deal, I think this is part of a bigger vision that they may have that will pay off further down the line. Right now, it doesn't look like it's a good fit for the players. It doesn't look like it's a good fit for Vucevic. It doesn't look like a good fit for Marketing. So I think they're going to have to try to figure this thing out. But overall, I think it is a talent upgrade. I think, what they're trying to do is upgrade their talent, figure out what they're going to do, maybe get a guard in there this summer, and then really start afresh. But right now, I don't know how much this is going to help them in the short term.
As you can see, you're still more an Orlando Magic fan because I've taken Vucevic out of my complete vocabulary and decided to say Jokic instead.
Yes, but I heard that. I heard that.
Look, I'm still hurting, clearly, as you can see. Rebuilding, it's hard down there in Florida. I'm telling you that now for free. But Ovie, look, on the complete opposite side, the Nets are contenders. We've spoken the majority of this show about their roster compilation and what they're going to do this year. But one thing that's interesting is they've struggled against teams below 500 this year. So how do they get themselves motivated, especially for an early game on a Sunday?
I don't think their motivation at this point will be, game by game basis. Obviously, they have a bigger goal at the end of the tunnel for those guys. They have their eyes on the prize, and that's to win an NBA championship. However, all of these games obviously count. And I think they're more so just going to try and take care of business. That's the thing when you're the team that's supposed to win, as you're going through these games that might not be as motivating, it might not be as exciting. This isn't the huge matchup that's between LeBron James. However, you still have to show up and you still have to go to work. It's their job. You still have to show up. You still have to win. And with that being said, obviously the Bulls have had a talent upgrade, which that in its own, I think, always makes a team dangerous. These are NBA guys. And the more talent you have, anything can happen. So I think it'll be interesting. However, I definitely think, the Nets, they're starting to enjoy playing around each other. Harden is obviously locked in. Unbelievable how he's playing and how the guys are playing around him. So, yeah, I think they'll take care of business this weekend.
Mo, I need you to kind of weigh this up. I just want to talk about the activity just very close to the trade deadline and also the activity just after in terms of the buyout market. When I think about all of those acquisitions from the Chicago Bulls, Vucevic, Troy Brown Jr., who we just spoke about, of course, Al-Farouq Amino, and of course, you know all about Daniel Tice. And you compare that with LA and Blake, who obviously joined the Brooklyn Nets. Who actually, out of the two teams, made the better improvement to their rosters?
Well, I think the Brooklyn Nets were already great, and these upgrades aren't too big of an upgrade, whereas the Chicago Bulls, for the first time in, let's say, 10 plus years, this was the first ever trade deadline where I've seen the Chicago Bulls make a trade to improve their roster rather than dump some salary or make a terrible move. The front office has been absolutely excellent so far. And what they've done now is they've traded for an all-star in Vucevic. What does that do? Okay, you might not be competing for a championship this year, but it tells your current all-star, Zach LaVine, look, we're here to put the best pieces around you possible. This is a long-term move for the Chicago Bulls, whereas the Brooklyn Nets are making win-now moves. So it's two different philosophies. What I'm interested to see in this matchup is the Chicago Bulls have two things that can exploit the holes in the Brooklyn Nets, right? They have an elite offensive big. So this is going to be on DeAndre Jordan, LaMarcus Aldridge if he's playing, or Blake Griffin if he's playing, to see which one of them could slow down the all-star big man, Nikola Vucevic. And then Zach LaVine has been one of the best scoring guards in the league this season. Who's going to step up to the challenge of guarding Zach LaVine? Now, I'm not saying the Bulls are going to come out and win. I'm just saying those two matchups are what's interesting me about this game this weekend.
Well, only one more thing to turn around and point our NBA fans to this week, and that's, of course, Mo's show is back again on the Snapchat this week, in the paint with Mo Mooncey, available on Snapchat. You know the vibes. I love this picture. I'm not going to lie to you, Snapchat. Make sure you subscribe and you can get all the latest interviews, hot takes, and all the breakdowns of your weekend's action. But gents, look, the Avengers are finally assembling, both Brooklyn and LA. So let's get everybody ready for the end game. Let's go. All roads start this Sunday. We'll see you there.
Sky Sports. Feel it all.